Now, with our journey to the west, it seems like we'll finish the third stop quite quickly. But when we get to the fourth stop with the Chetsun Yingtig, I'm not sure how to handle it. It seems like we won't be able to finish everything this year. But not teaching it isn't an option either. I'm still thinking about it. This is a difficult problem. One option is we could stop at the third stop and leave the fourth stop for next year. We'll see what works best. It seems like we can't cover Chetsun Yingtig in just 4 sessions. So maybe we shouldn't. Originally, I really wanted to visit the fourth stop. The fourth stop is a particularly beautiful place. It should be gorgeous there. You can see it in the photos. They're all wonderful, each one better than the last. But I'm not sure. After arriving there, staying in America all year would be a bit tiring. Now let's continue with a journey to the west. Essentials of the Practice Manual of Peaceful Manjushri. On the morning of July 6th, Yijin Nobu briefly met with the managing members of the Dharma Center and gave them teachings. Then the Dorje Kasung came to pay their respects. They wore their military uniforms and sang a song of Kalachakra, creating auspicious signs for the Shambhala community to dispel obstacles in wrathful forms. You can see this in the photos. Actually, not all of them came at that time. Their Kalachakra military force had a very large number of people. At that time, they wanted to take photos with His Holiness. Here, many of them have quite large beards. At the fourth stop, there were even more of them. At that time, His Holiness specifically said, "When I go back, I want to show these to the people in Tibetan areas." Then he told those below, "Find those who are a bit heavier. Bring these people here. I want to take a photo." When they went down, they were too embarrassed to say, "the heavier ones." So instead they asked, "Who would like to take a photo with His Holiness?" They deliberately went to the heavier people and asked, "Would you like to take a photo with His Holiness?" Those heavier people said, "I'd love to, I'd love to." His Holiness's request was because Tibetans, when they see Westerners, they'd say, "Wow, they're so tall and big." And also, in our language, some look a bit unusual, quite distinctive. For these kinds of people, His Holiness said he wanted to bring back photos, mainly to show Khenpo Gado when he returned. Khenpo Gado often said, "When you go somewhere, you should..." Later, when we went to the west, Khenpo Gado was quite appreciative, but when going to the Han region, he always said something. Later, His Holiness even criticized this in his writings. When going to the west, he heard there were all kinds of people in the west, so he said, "When you come back, bring me some photos of various distinctive-looking people." His Holiness probably mainly had Khenpo Gado in mind. These people didn't know. As for the Dorje Kasung, maybe they were asked to find those with bigger beards, a group of people, I don't remember exactly. But for the other group below, His Holiness entrusted them at that time. They were too embarrassed to go down and say, "the heavier ones," or "those who look a certain way." They were embarrassed. So they deliberately whispered in their ears, "Would you like to take a photo with His Holiness?" So here they began taking photos with His Holiness. They were quite interesting. That's how their Dorje Kasung were. In the afternoon, Choje gave the reading transmission for Peaceful Manjushri, placing Buddhahood within reach. He transmitted it to everyone. This is His Holiness's Peaceful Manjushri Sadhana and the practice text from that time. Many of them are still continuously practicing it and have kept it all along. So this is the practice text from back then, translated at that time. Now, many of them still keep it with them at all times. They've been practicing Peaceful Manjushri for 30 years now. I'd say they're really quite good. They've been practicing continuously. Not bad. I wonder if 30 years from now, we'll still be holding this practice text and practicing. At that time, he gave the reading transmission. Then, without any preparation in advance, he expounded on its essential points, the essentials of Peaceful Manjushri. Personally, I feel that what follows on Peaceful Manjushri is taught very well, because at that time, their expectations were very high. First, they wanted the transmission of Peaceful Manjushri, and they also requested that he explain the entire teaching to them. We know that if Peaceful Manjushri were to be taught extensively, it would take 100 days. To give a transmission and also teach other instructions in just one session is very difficult, but His Holiness, in a seemingly casual manner with simple and direct words, covered all of Peaceful Manjushri. So at that time, I felt it was truly extraordinary. I wonder if you have this same feeling. Let's take a look below. Its essentials are, as I've also mentioned in class, these essentials of peaceful Manjushri are very meaningful. The cycle of peaceful Manjushri in itself is, and this is what I'm saying, the essence of all Dzogchen teachings and is endowed with many extraordinary qualities. What's more exceptional was that the teaching Choje offered at this time was the condensed heart essence of the cycle. In a seemingly casual manner, with simple and direct words, he explicitly and precisely introduced each instruction in the manual in a manner that was full of pithy instructions and powerful blessings. These Vajra words that arose spontaneously from the expanse of his awareness were something that ordinary people would find to be inconceivable, even after years of deep contemplation. This is my own view. Whether it's accurate or not, you can analyze for yourselves, because the text is clearly there, black words on white paper. Whether what I say is correct, you can see for yourselves. My feeling is, indeed, if I were to teach this like in words of my perfect teacher, the instructions on the precious human birth are so extensive, the instructions on impermanence are so extensive. Yet His Holiness included all of this content, and the words were also very simple. He taught everything this way. So that day I thought, wow, what His Holiness taught them today were such profound pith instructions. That's what I thought. In general, this practice manual is a guidebook for the stage-by-stage practices. It is not necessary to use its Tibetan version for your entire practice. If you have clearly understood the meaning in English, you need not go back to the Tibetan text and recite that as well. Regarding sadhanas and aspiration prayers, it is best to recite them in the original language, in which that language has been blessed by the author. Take the sadhana of peaceful Manjushri as an example. Since it was written down in Tibetan, Tibetan has more blessings, so it should mainly be recited in Tibetan. Of course, if any language has been blessed by those who have accomplished the power of authentic words, whether it's English, Sanskrit, or any other language, you can recite it in that language. For instance, Buddhist sutras and the Shastras, composed by Indian masters, although they were initially written in Sanskrit when they were later translated into Tibetan by the translators, great Lotsavas such as Vairotsana also accomplished the power of authentic words. So the sadhanas are basically all recited in Tibetan. They also carry the blessing as long as a translation has been blessed by the authentic words of realized noble beings. No matter into which language it was translated, you can recite it. It depends on whether the translator has accomplished the power of authentic words. If so, there is no difference. When will you accomplish the power of authentic words of truth? Those of superior faculties accomplish authentic words on the path of unification. Those of medium faculties accomplish them on the first bodhisattva bhumi, while those of inferior faculties accomplish them on the eighth bodhisattva bhumi. The sign for accomplishing authentic words can be explained by examples. For instance, if a city is on fire, when those with the power of authentic words say, "May the fire be extinguished," the fire will go out immediately. Or if a person is seriously ill, if there is a special need, when those with the power of authentic words say, "May sickness be cured," the patient will recover immediately. I personally believe this sadhana of peaceful Manjushri has been blessed by Lord Manjushri with the power of authentic words. The sadhana of Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma and such recitation texts have been blessed by Orgyen Rinpoche Padmasambhava, so it is best to recite them in this way. Of course, the meaning is in Tibetan. If its sadhana is in Tibetan, the same applies when we give reading transmissions. The same for Vajrakilaya. For peaceful Manjushri, you can also recite it in Tibetan pronunciation. But if you really can't pronounce it, when you want to contemplate its meaning, reciting it in another language was also permitted by His Holiness later. It's also acceptable. So this was an instruction on this topic before the condensed version of Peaceful Manjushri. This was a teaching on this aspect. Next, let's discuss the content of Placing Buddhahood Within Reach. What is taught in Placing Buddhahood Within Reach? It offers all the key points of an entire Buddhist path from the preliminary practices for beginners to the ultimate stage of attaining Buddhahood. The entire path has been covered. How is it explained? When you first enter the path, it is of great importance to contemplate and meditate as much as possible on the four thoughts that turn the mind from samsara. These 4 thoughts are those taught in the preliminary practices: the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages of a human birth, the impermanence of life, the infallible law of cause and effect, and the suffering of samsara. First, contemplate that this precious human life endowed with freedoms and advantages is extremely difficult to obtain, whether thinking of its causes, the analogies illustrating the difficulties, or the numerical comparisons. Since you have obtained such a precious human life, you should be filled with great joy, so never waste your life under any circumstance, but use it to actively practice the pure Dharma. This is the guidance on the precious human existence. This guidance, how long would we spend on it in the preliminary practices? How long would we spend on it in finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind? But if we truly want to contemplate and meditate on the precious human birth, if you've thoroughly completed this contemplation, it should be sufficient. This is even more concise than what's in Peaceful Manjushri. Second, contemplate the impermanence of life. Though you have obtained the precious human life, your death is certain, and the time for your death is uncertain. At the time of death, nothing except the Dharma will be helpful, so you must practice the genuine Dharma. The main purpose of contemplating death and impermanence is, I will definitely die soon, so nothing else is of any use. I must quickly practice virtue. This is the guidance on the impermanence of life. At that time, I felt even these preliminary practices were taught in a unique way. If we were to explain it, we'd ramble on for ages, and in the end be confused, not knowing what was actually said, with no real feeling. When we practice, since this is an era of fast food, if we were to teach all of words of my perfect teacher, no one would listen. If we were to teach all of finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind, who would listen to that? On your own. If you frequently reflect on these Pith instructions, whether in the course of a day or a short 15-day period, you can contemplate one day on the precious human birth, one day on death and impermanence. If you can't do the extensive practice, anyone should be able to practice this. The most essential, most pithy instructions here have been explained very clearly. Third, contemplate the infallible law of cause and effect. When you die, you will not completely disappear like the cessation of fire or the evaporation of water. Instead, you will experience great happiness based on virtuous actions, or immense suffering based on non-virtuous actions. So, you must actualize the practices of adopting virtue and rejecting non-virtue. This is the guidance on the infallible karmic law. I won't explain each one separately. You should understand this yourselves. Fourth, contemplate the suffering of samsara. Accumulating non-virtuous karma will lead you to be reborn in whichever of the 3 lower realms. You will experience all kinds of unbearable suffering over an extremely vast scope, over an extremely long period of time that is difficult to endure. So before these sufferings occur, you should now diligently refrain from negative actions and undertake positive ones. This is the guidance on the suffering of samsara. These 4 thoughts that turn the mind are practiced by practitioners of both Mahayana and Shravakayana and should be actually practiced. So they are named the common preliminary practices. You see, His Holiness covered these outer preliminary practices in just 1 or 2 sentences each. This is what we call Pith Instructions. Just from reading these words, when you practice, if you really can't practice the preliminary practices, have no time to practice or have no interest in practicing, by reading this over and over, I think for those with the right karmic connection, perhaps through such a short text, genuine realization can arise in your mind stream. For instance, if you can truly abandon negativity or develop conviction about the suffering of samsara, that's the purpose. If you prefer more extensive explanations, of course we can also refer to the extensive guidance texts. For those who prefer concise teachings nowadays, many people prefer quick meals, just instant noodles. They don't want to cook, don't even want to move. People in cities, everything is food delivery. They just don't dare to move, don't want to move, refuse to move, always in a short amount of time. Looking at our Dharma friends here, some of them every day in the morning or evening, often there's nothing in the evening. Before and after class, I see them eating a few cookies, eating a bit of steamed bread, eating a few steamed buns. Sometimes I see this and think, oh, you're so fortunate. While studying the Dharma now, you have steamed buns to eat. In our time, forget about steamed buns. Even when the bag of sampa was getting emptier and emptier, we were extremely anxious, burning with worry. We feared the transmission would be interrupted. What would we do? In that mountain valley, there were no shops, nothing. Now, if you're really hungry, you can go borrow some money over there, though some people might not have money. Having no money is also suffering. Those without merit have no money, no faith, and no steamed buns to eat. If you have it, today eat this steamed bun. Think about what's going on at home. Tomorrow go somewhere to have hot pot. That's also fine. If you have a bit of money, eat more. Otherwise, life will soon be over. You never know. These 4 thoughts that turn the mind should be practiced by both Mahayana and Hinayana practitioners, so they are called the 4 common preliminary practices. Next, there are 2 uncommon preliminary practices that belong to Mahayana. The first is taking refuge. The instruction on taking refuge is to have the determination that the teacher Buddha is the only one I have faith in. The Dharma taught by the Buddha is the only path I follow. The Sangha, the noble ones, are my sole companions. We often say the Buddha is regarded as the teacher, the Dharma is regarded as the path, and the Sangha is regarded as companions. These 3 ways. Through this, attain the ultimate Buddhahood. This is the taking refuge as stated in Sutrayana. According to extraordinary secret Mantrayana, taking refuge means giving rise to the view that your true essence is already Buddha and concentrating on such a recognition as best as you can. This is the uncommon way of taking refuge as stated in secret Mantrayana. Finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind teaches refuge extensively too, as everyone knows. Refuge is simply this. Second, generating bodhicitta. Reflect in your mind that all sentient beings enduring endless suffering are truly miserable. Yet merely feeling pity for them is not enough. Just thinking they're pitiful is not enough. You should be able to place them in the state of Buddhahood. This is called aspirational bodhicitta. I must make this aspiration. The path that does not require you to experience hardships for a long time, but enables you to attain Buddhahood easily and swiftly, is the clear light, great perfection. For this reason, I follow the path of the clear light, great perfection, and maintain the view of this tradition. This is the practical aspect of generating bodhicitta. The above, taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, are the paths stated in the uncommon Mahayana classifications. So they are called the uncommon preliminary practices. I remember when His Holiness taught this, he was very relaxed, because when we usually translate, we translate 1 or 2 sentences at a time. During this time, His Holiness would drink tea, check his watch. I asked at that time whether we should record this. Earlier we had recorded the reading transmission. Should we also record what comes after? He said, no need, I'll just briefly give them a simple, condensed version of Peaceful Manjushri. After he taught it, unexpectedly, if we ordinary people were to teach, we'd probably just get through it somehow. In the middle, do something virtuous or suddenly skip some of the guidance texts, because there's no one to remind you. If he taught it all in one breath, it would be fine. But in between, with translation taking a long time, sometimes with His Holiness's Amdo dialect, even Sangye Khandro sometimes couldn't catch it. So she'd ask for clarification, and after asking to continue speaking required waiting a long time. Sometimes His Holiness would check his watch, look again, because he had to time it right, not too long, not too short. So at this time he had to keep track of time. He also left time afterward to teach them another simple practice. So without a certain level of skill, it would probably be quite difficult. Now below I'm wondering about Guru Yoga. Should we cover it today or tomorrow? It's 9:35. Should we cover it today or tomorrow? You tell me. Today? All right. Next is the practice of Guru Yoga. Visualize that in the sky before you, at the center of a luminous and magnificent rainbow sphere and white clouds, appears your root Guru, who is inseparable from the Bodhisattva Manjushri. When we practice Guru Yoga, we must visualize in this way. His clothes and ornaments should be clearly visualized in the way described in the sadhana of Peaceful Manjushri, visualized with vivid clarity. This is to visualize the field of merit vividly. Then contemplate in your mind. Before this precious root Guru of great kindness, you offer to him without the slightest stinginess your body, possessions, and all root of virtue accumulated throughout the 3 times. This is the instruction on on making mandala offerings. Through relying on the Guru, accumulate merit. The instruction on offering mandala is like this. In the sky before you, visualize your Guru and Manjushri Bodhisattva as inseparable. This is the power of support. Next, the instruction on purifying obscurations. The power of remorse is to have intense regret for all the negative actions you have done in the past. This is the power of remorse. The power of resolution is to resolve never to commit these negative actions again, even at the cost of your own life. This is the power of resolution. The power of antidote is to fiercely pray to the Guru in order to purify all the downfalls. This is the power of antidote. You should earnestly purify your downfalls and obscurations through these four powers. This is the instruction on purifying obscurations. In our words of my perfect teacher, the mandala offering is taught at length. The Vajrasattva practice is also taught at length. Everyone should know there's quite a lot explained. So first the mandala offering and the visualization sequence for purifying obscurations. Then, when formally practicing Guru Yoga, supplicate, embodiment of all sources of refuge, gracious root Guru, to you I pray. Please care for me and bless my mind stream. I pray that you bring my mind to maturity through empowerment that brings maturity. Liberate my mind with the instructions that bring liberation. Please inspire me with your blessings so that I may realize the profound and sublime path of the great perfection. This is what we often pray. I also ask you to pray this often. Bless me until I perfect the four visions. This is how you pray. When visualizing the Guru, on one hand, visualize the Guru before you as inseparable from Manjushri, then intensely, fiercely supplicate with palms joined. At the end, visualize that the Guru melts into light and dissolves into you, whereby your body, speech, and mind become inseparable from the Guru's body, speech, and mind. Rest single-pointedly in this state. This is the complete instruction on the practice of Guru Yoga. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Kirgana jirano chupai chupun solen draja bandangara badna sadarda bandangara badna sada bandangara badna sadarda